In case the recent Nankai earthquake wasn't enough natural disaster fun, Kochi Prefecture was also threatened by a powerful typhoon in late August. Leading up to the typhoon's landfall, Kuroshio experienced heavy rain and powerful winds just from the outskirts of the storm. As the days progressed, the typhoon was predicted to grow in power, and so a few Kuroshio jets asked to stay over at my house and wait out the storm. We made a curry dinner, played card games, and slept on futons in my living room while the storm raged around us. I realized for the first time that my house comes equipped with storm shields, which are rolling metal sheets I can slide over my windows that face seaside. Sliding them over the windows, it felt like I was prepping for a zombie apocalypse, and that's not entirely an exaggeration. Kuroshio was in apocalypse mode. Shops and businesses were closed, the streets were empty, children were staying home from school, but of course, ALT still had to go into work even though we didn't have any classes, because of ridiculous bureaucratic reasons. The day the typhoon was expected to make landfall, it ended up changing course and missed Kuroshio entirely, a rather anticlimactic end to all the hype and paranoia. However, other areas of Japan were in the line of fire, and experienced extreme winds and rainfall, which resulted in flooding and landslides. About once a year we get a typhoon or a tropical storm in Japan, so it's likely we'll face another again next year. Just the normal, terrifying weather reality. Kochi A-Jet splashed down on the stunning Shimanto River with a significantly larger floating crew compared to last year. It was relaxing, the water was cool, and the mountains and forests were bright green and breathtaking. Everyone had a fantastic and relaxing time. The tradition of Kochi River floats lives on, another successful event in the books. Speaking of A-Jet, I not only played in the Ehime A-Jet football tournament, but to my surprise, my team won the entire thing. We were the legendary Team Gaijins, a ragtag group assembled from multiple different prefectures and complete strangers. Somehow, despite our differences, we were able to come together and play to our strengths, and use that synergy to defeat our opponents. I played multiple different positions, sometimes I was offense, sometimes I was defense, but my team told me I was best as a goalie, so I blocked shots most of the game. It was tons of fun, and for our victory, we were awarded sick medals. Now let's talk about summer festival fun. When I caught wind that Susaki City had a Dragon Dance festival, I dropped my after-work plans to go watch. It was a sizable festival complete with dozens of snack shops, busy streets, and the promised dragon. I caved and bought a massive candy apple, which carved my mouth into thousands of pieces. Before the dance began, some of the older men were lighting firecrackers and dropping them in a steel basket. I was filming them and caught one man nearly drop a lit firecracker into the firecracker bag. It exploded around the bag, and thankfully none of the other firecrackers caught fire. I thought for sure I was gonna get blown up. The dance was exhilarating. I like the drumming and the frantic rage of the dragon, and I also like when it coiled in on itself. One of the men had a smoky firecracker to help set the scene, and the smoke had a rotten egg smell typical of sulfur, perfect for dragon breath. A Susaki Yosakoi team made of children and ALTs also danced at this festival. It was an adorable production. They did a swell job. Over in Kuroshio, I was ambushed by a Japanese kindergarten student, held hostage, and forced against my will to watch karaoke. But let's back up a bit. Annually in the summer, Kuroshio town hosts a night market, where food trucks and local businesses set up shop, Yosakoi and taiko drum performances thunder, and a karaoke competition is belted out. My Yosakoi team, Hatabujin, attended the event, and we rocked the socks off festival goers with our dance. I also enjoyed the taiko drum performance. As I settled in to watch the horror and beauty that is open karaoke, a group of kindergartners planted down next to me, glancing curiously over at me. As a foreigner in Japan, getting stares or double takes from people, and especially kids, is quite common, so I thought nothing of it. But one boy just kept staring, and eventually he came over to me and made funny faces. I made funny faces back. Unknowingly, I had signed a deal with the devil. From that moment forward, we became best friends. I stood up to get some pizza from a vendor, and when I looked down, like a movie horror villain, he was there. He tugged on my sleeve to get my attention, pointed at something mildly interesting, and I pretended to be excited. And then he went searching for something else he could bring my attention to. He asked me what pizza I was getting, if I even like pizza, how much, why I was buying pizza and not yakisoba, and every other question under the sun. At last, my pizza arrived, and when I went and sat back down for karaoke, my self-imposed best friend followed me. Unfortunately, even during karaoke, he now needed to find things to direct my attention to, and so scalding my mouth on hot volcanic pizza, I gave an obligatory head shake and to my companion whenever he tapped my arm. Desperate for a savior, I looked around, but his parents were lost in the festival. I would have no salvation. I would have to save myself. Hoping to make my escape, I got up and I walked to get some shaved ice, but my chaperone must have been suspicious, as he followed me, grabbed my hand, and dragged me back to my seat. Now I knew I was well and truly trapped, and with the quality of the karaoke waning, I was going to suffer. But the opportunity for escape arrived when he momentarily was distracted by his friends. With his back turned, I successfully made my escape, taking off my Yosakoi bandana as a disguise and running into the crowd. Half an hour later, setting away from the festival, engrossed in the sunset by the bay, I thought I was free. My thoughts were of pizza, a hot bath, and a good sleep. I was distracted for a moment, and when I turned, to my absolute horror, my bestest friend had managed to find me again. A wicked smile slashed across his face. Oh, the horror. In Shimanto City, I caught a short but beautiful fireworks festival. I feel like I'm justified in complaining, so I will say the parking in Shimanto is atrocious, especially since this festival had to have upwards of 1,000 people in attendance. The road home was slowed by touch-and-go traffic for an extra 3 hours for what is ordinarily a 40-minute drive. The fireworks were great, but in this Basan's opinion, not worth the insane crowds. But bad traffic or not, I found myself back for the Shimanto Yosakoi Festival, the second largest Yosakoi festival in Kochi. Over 35 individual teams were in attendance, dancing from 9 in the morning to 9 at night. Since the aforementioned parking situation was hopeless, we decided to walk to the various dancing locations that day and perform to huge cheering crowds. Let's talk about a classic Japanese school event, Sports Day. It's an event similar to track and field competitions back in Canada and the US, but Sports Day is an in-school competition, meaning students don't compete across schools. During Sports Day, there is an emphasis on school spirit and teamwork, and many events require less technique and physical prowess and are more like games. The students practice and train hard for 2 weeks after summer vacation, and a stiff rivalry forms between the two groups, red and white. The students' focus is on perfecting their team cheer, usually a highly spirited and coordinated routine. Also, students practice a dance routine for the country-renowned dance battle, a student and teacher favorite. Here are some of the Sports Day events. Enjoy. Just in time to polish off this month, I have another thrilling car story. Seems like these should be a special feature on Bold Basan, but I digress. As I was driving to work early one morning, I passed someone on a narrow road, skirting a series of bushes, vines, and leaves overhanging onto the road. I've driven this road for over 3 years and passed countless people, and oftentimes a leaf or a branch has brushed against my car, so I thought nothing of it. The jungle in Japan is relentless, and country roads aren't always well maintained. Suddenly, my passenger mirror broke and my window burst into shards. With broken glass covering my passenger car seat, I parked in the school lot. Turns out that overhang that I mentioned before had an entirely fallen tree stump inside, but it was completely camouflaged by leaves and vines. This meant when my car mirror brushed against the leaves, it actually smacked into a dead log, and it was enough to smash my mirror into my window. I had just bothered my mechanic friend for an oil change the previous day, and he was more than surprised to do business with me again so soon. That's all for now. Take care and be bold.